Well, my husband Richard was 68 years old when he passed away last September 14th, 2013. It was 11 days before our 42nd wedding anniversary. And it was very sudden and, of course, a shock, as it always is when we lose a loved one or somebody that we spent so much time with. A state of disbelief that it was actually going on, like surreal, like this is not happening, because you don't anticipate anything happening when they're perfectly okay. We had just come from my granddaughter's birthday party, and he had come home to sit in his chair to watch a ball game like he usually does. And I told him I was going to the grocery store and I would be back shortly. And while I was gone, he went upstairs and just went into the bedroom and passed away. You know, when my husband passed away, I didn't know anything about grief counseling, and people, you know, who had lost a loved one before said, Kathy, you need to try and get into a grief counseling group. And that sounded pretty good to me, not knowing what it was all about. But the first time that I went to grief counseling, you know, with Steiger, I was also amazed at the number of people there. I mean, you realize that you're not the only one that's lost someone. The whole room is filled with people who have lost people that they loved. And some of them very tragic, some of them who were very sick, some of them who were just all of a sudden like my own husband, some of them who lost their sons or their daughters, and you know, as well as their husbands or their wives. And it's a place that we can all come together because we all have one common bond, and that's that we lost someone. We can cry together, we can explain, we can talk about our loved ones, and we all understand about that. And that grief counseling group, you know, was my first experience at starting to work through my grief, not going around it, but going through it. And I'm still doing that, still trying to find my way without my husband. But the support that's in that grief counseling group is just an unbelievable support for anybody who's lost their loved one. When I first started coming to grief counseling and I brought my granddaughter, I called David. I had gotten his card from Lila, and she said, Kathy, just call him and let him know that you want to attend the next session. So I did call him, and I asked him, I said, would it be okay if I brought my granddaughter? My granddaughter's 18 years old, and my husband and I raised her from the time she was a baby. So she really lost her grandpa as well as her father at the same time, and she was suffering very much. And I asked if it was okay if I brought her, and he said absolutely. So when I brought her, I didn't know how she was going to react because the room, of course, was filled with older people. She was the youngest person there. But she has a very distinct sense of who she is and how she can express herself and the feelings that she has. And David was so gentle and so kind to be able to bring some of those feelings out in her, that she was able to get it out of her system, and she could talk and she could cry. And she realized too that there were other people in that room, you know, who had lost people that they loved just as much as we had. But it was a sense of relief for her. And I can remember saying when we left there, I said, well, Taylor, how do you think that group was? And she said, I'm so glad I came because I feel better. I feel better that I came, and I want to come back again. And David is very instrumental in his kindness. He's compassionate. He understands. He's, you know, I can't have enough adjectives about David, because he is just a very kind, caring man, and he's in the right place with all the right people where he needs to be.